Night Football, gentlemen. Need your favorite plays for the Seattle-Washington game. So, Pearce, who are you putting in the captain spot?
I'll go with a GPP play here. A little risky, but you got to be a little different in these situations. J.D. Mckissick at running back. We know that Seattle struggles against receiving running backs. In one fewer game than the rest of the league, they've allowed the 8th most receptions to running backs and the most receiving yards to running backs. And it's just kind of their style of play. They've given up a lot of passing yards this season, and they have one of the lowest ADOTs. So they give up tons of these passes underneath. They don't put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. That allows quarterbacks to check down. And I expect McKissick to get you about 5, maybe 50 to 70 yards receiving, fall into the end zone. And with the savings and the boost, he should work for you in GPPs.
Kenny, who are you putting in the captain spot?
Yep, had almost the same exact stuff written down. Pearce is a smart guy. J.D. McKissick at 10.8K. I think it's a really good deal for the reasons he mentioned. The Seahawks top 8 in targets and receptions allowed to opposing running backs, or top 10 rather. And J.D. McKissick has just been on fire. You know, he had a couple of bad weeks, but really bad for his standards is average of 8 points, 8 fantasy points a week. And he also was dealing with injury, and now he's cleared from that injury. He should be ready to go. I also like Killer Heineke, though, if I want to give another play at 14.7K. I think it's kind of disrespectful that another quarterback is like the 4th or 5th highest priced player on the slate. Heineke coming off a 3-touchdown game, facing maybe the worst secondary in football, and he's 14.7K. I think I got to jump at that as well. I'm certainly going to have exposure to him in my captain spot, but I think McKissick is a good play.
All right, Geoff, these guys going with someone who's 10-8. Who are you putting in your captain spot?
I'm going to go with a little bit more vanilla with DK Metcalf. I assume he'll have some ownership, but him and Lockett always split it a little bit. And you've got Russell Wilson, who also garners some ownership there. It's just too good a matchup, I think, to go away from DK Metcalf here. We know that he's capable of those 35-point games. And, Washington features 2 corners, 6 feet tall. Metcalf's going to have a 3-inch height advantage to the team, or a defense in the football team as well, the Washington football team, giving up the 2nd most touchdowns to the wide receiver position. They give up a ton of yards to wide receivers as well. Metcalf's had 2 slow games with Russell Wilson, but the entire offense has sucked. His ADOT has been fine over the last 2 games, getting targeted downfield. I think eventually you're going to see a big game. This is the spot, man. I mean, you just don't get many pass defenses worse than Washington this year.
All right, Kenny, you're already putting a little value in your captain spot, but talk to me about a different value play you can use in your showdown lineup.
Yeah, you don't get many worse secondaries in Washington. One of them may be the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm looking to target them with one of these cheap Washington receivers. I like Adam Humphries here at $2,100. He was on the field for 45% of the offensive snaps a week ago. And when you look at the value wide receivers, Carter is another guy that you kind of like, right? But, then you're looking at snap counts, you're looking at Eskridge and Freddie Swain at $2,200. These are guys that haven't really produced at all. And when you look right there at Adam Humphries, at least he's coming off a game where he had 30 yards on 2 targets. I think that he should be able to afford to maybe 5 or 6 points, but the targets have at least consistently been there. He is some part of this Washington offense in a good matchup. We also talked about the Seahawks getting beat underneath. So I think Adam Humphries is actually a really good play here if I'm not going to look to one of the even cheaper options like Freddie Swain at $2,200. All
right, Geoff, need some value here. Where are you going?
I'm going to go with Freddie Swain. I'm going to go with Freddie Swain at $2,200 here. Again, I mean, I think this is a spot where Russell Wilson could just throw like 4 touchdown passes on like 25 pass attempts. And I think that really brings into play some of these Seattle, really sort of down in the dumps wide receivers, you'd call. I mean, you've got Dwayne Eskridge as a guy you could target too, but he just does not seem to have any trust from the organization yet. Swain is still playing over 30% of the snaps. He's the guy who gets, the odd target downfield here in games like that. And again, I mean, I think at some point, you've got to start and just say, okay, well, if the sentiment is this low on Russell Wilson, what's probably going to happen? The exact opposite of what everyone is expecting, which is a big game. I like Freddie Swain here as just a GPP play because you're just looking at 1 or 2 targets, but if he gets in the end zone here at 2,200, it's going to be massive.
All right, Pearce, you got a value play you can use in your showdown lineup?
Yeah, Logan Thomas is going to be where I go. If you look on your DraftKings screen, it's going to show that little IR thing. He's supposed to be activated tonight, so hopefully that little IR tag sticks on there until late this evening. Otherwise, he's going to be very popular because he was looking great before he got injured. We know that Washington loves to throw tight ends. We've seen Bates and Ricky Seals-Jones play well. We know that Seattle's pass defense struggles. We know that Seattle's pass defense struggles with these short to intermediate track routes. So he should be about as safe as a value play as you can get. He doesn't have to get that touchdown. Typically, we're always looking for a touchdown from one of these value guys, but we've seen the Washington tight end volume go off the charts. So As long as he's healthy and active, he should be probably the most popular value play on the slate.
All right, it's sportsbook time. What's your favorite player prop on the board for tonight, Geoff?
I like going under on Antonio Gibson in this spot. One sort of underrated factor about Seattle, they've not been good, but I mean, their defense has really stepped it up in the run stop department. They've allowed 3.4 yards per carry over their last 3 games. Like, this Washington O-line has not been good all year. I mean, Antonio Gibson is a player too who's averaged 3.6 yards per carry or less in 3 of his last 6 games. Not an efficient running back, not an efficient O-line, and going up against a really, really good rush defense. The guys nailed it with J.D. Mckissick. I mean, J.D. Mckissick is playing on like 50% of the snaps, and the easy play here is just for Taylor Heineke to dump it off to J.D. Mckissick all game and not have to worry about pounding Antonio Gibson for 2 yards per carry, which is probably going to happen in the first, couple of offensive series, and you're probably not going to see Antonio Gibson that much. I like going under on his rushing props here.
All right, Pearce, hit me with your favorite player prop.
I want to stick in kind of the same area there as Geoff with Taylor Heineke over 18.5 rushing yards. He's got 276 yards this season on 45 carries. That's about 6 carries a pop. So if he gives you 3 carries, he should be able to get over this. Seattle, as I mentioned earlier, one of the lowest pressure rates, one of the lowest sack rates. That's going to give Heineke a little bit more time. That's definitely going to lead to checkdowns, like Geoff mentioned. But also, other than checkdowns, it'll allow him to run out of the pocket. We saw Colt McCoy pick this team apart with a intended air yards of 4.5, I believe. Just checking down nonstop, beat Seattle. But he also rushed for 18 yards in that game. And Colt McCoy is not necessarily a running quarterback, whereas Taylor Heineke definitely is. I like the check down angle, and I really like the Taylor Heineke over 18.5 rushing yards angle.
All right, Kenny, hit us with your favorite player prop.
Yeah, I'm with these guys liking Taylor Heineke, but I'm going to play a little different play on him. I like the under half an interception. I like Taylor Heineke to not throw an interception at plus 100. I know it's crazy. The guy's got 9 picks this year, but he doesn't have one in the last 2 games. And the Seattle Seahawks all season have intercepted just 4 passes. They are 30th in takeaways per game, 31st interception rate. This is a terrible secondary, folks. We've said it all segment long. I know Washington is bad as well. They may not win this game, but I don't think it's because Taylor Heineke turns the ball over. He may not perform as well as you want him to. But again, I think that plus 100, getting plus money on Taylor Heineke not throw a pick against one of the worst defense in football, intercepting the ball, I really, really like that play. So I like Taylor Heineke under half an interception.
All right, Slate Approved pick time. Pearce, what is your absolute favorite bet tonight?
Let's go with one of the specials, Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf combining, not just solo, combining for 139.5 receiving yards. I like one of them to go over. We've mentioned all segment how these pass defenses are not very good. Everyone knows that DK Metcalf is good. Everybody knows that Terry McLaurin is good, and he's the main target on that offense. And you just look specifically at what these pass defenses do. They're towards the bottom of the league in passing yards, in air yards, in yards after the catch, in depth of target. They may not give up a bunch of points. They will, but they'll definitely give up a ton of yards to these 2 receivers.
Kenny, what do we think?
I actually really like going to the player parlays as well because I like Terry McLaurin to have 125 yards and a touchdown scored rather at plus 100. But if I got to give a side or a total play, I really like the over 47.5. I just don't understand how both of these defenses stop the opposing offense. We talked about the struggles of the Seattle secondary, Washington without Montez Sweat now, as well as Chase Young. I think that both of these offenses have a big night. We see a shootout here on Monday Night Football.
Geoff, your absolute favorite bet tonight?
I like going over on Russell Wilson's passing touchdowns prop, over 1.5 passing touchdowns for Russ. It's minus 135, but again, you've got the Washington football team here. They've given up 24 passing touchdowns, the second most in the league. And look, I mean, it's Russell Wilson. Combine them with the Seahawks money line here. We got Russell Wilson versus Taylor Heineke, folks. Just take Russ. I like a big bounce back game for him.